Kia ora and welcome to Business and Beyond. Today I'm joined in the studio by tactical strategist Darren Pratley. Kia ora, Darren.
Hey there.
Great to have you here. How are you feeling?
So good and pleased to be here. Yeah,
lovely.
It's really great.
Now, first of all, a tactical strategist, it's a big name. What does that mean? What do you do?
Well, one of the things that I realised was one of my key skills was the ability to be able to have conversations with businesses to understand their industry, their environment, and then be able to take the learnings from that to become more tactics of what they need to be doing in their business to change their result, to improve their outcomes, and actually to have a better team. So that's become my real focus in what I do.
So I take from that it's about seeing the big picture
Yes.
and then being able to break that down into the implementation steps for the organisation. Is that right?
You just used my word.
There you go. Implementation is your word of the year, right?
Yeah, and it's a word that I use a lot because one of the things that you and I both know is that when you do presentations or you do education, we all have people in the room that sit there and go, wow, that was amazing. That was fantastic. That was something actually that will change my business. And then by the time they actually leave the room and get back to their business, they fall into the trap of going back to their normal day-to-day busyness and forget about the cool things that they could have taken out of those sessions and changed their result.
Oh, I love that. And great wisdom for any business, right?
Absolutely.
So I want to know, how did you get here to becoming a tactical strategist? Because, you know, is it a normal business school thing that you learn, or is it inherent in you?
I was very lucky that I was introduced to what I would call industries that are very fast-paced but are highly competitive. So I come from financial services. I've experienced in the real estate industry, the automotive industry, and those industries are very competitive. So I grew up with a set of skills that was about how to understand that speed of business, how to understand the customer piece, but also getting the business done and actually making sure you get the deal across the line. So because of those experiences in those industries, I was then given a lot of opportunity to do governance and running of organizations. So not only have I got the practical experience at the coalface, I actually also understand the governance positions of business as well. So by putting those two components together, I'm actually quite a unique proposition to support business.
So interesting. And my understanding, because it's my job to Google you and scope you out, my understanding too is that you come from quite a history of competition and drive. It's in your nature, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I guess, you know, in being brought up, I grew up in sports environments. So, you know, the only way you were able to win is that you had to train hard, you had to compete hard, and you had to really want to be successful. And I was somebody who wasn't naturally talented. So the only way I was going to get good was by working hard and getting better every day at what I wanted to achieve. So I think I brought that into my business career and just sort of taken that piece where actually I do really want to help businesses and I really want to make sure that they do the work to get the result that they deserve.
I love that. And my understanding too is that you didn't just stop on that learning journey, on that driver journey as well. That's been a continuous evolution for you, right?
Yeah, I guess in my life, that's been a key piece for me is one of the things I really enjoy is to be able to set targets or set goals and then strive to achieve them. And it might be personal goals that, you know, I'll give you an example. One of the things I did was the New Zealand coast to coast, which is going from one side of New Zealand to the other. Now, believe it or not, but I had no chance of winning that race. But one of the things from me was that this was a personal challenge that could I do it, and trained hard for a year to be able to do that and to be able to get to the start line and was able to complete it in a pretty respectable time, which for me was a real achievement. So setting those personal challenges really helps me with understanding the challenges that many of the people in our businesses go through. And actually, what are the things that we need to overcome to make sure that we are achieving those business goals, those team goals?
I love that. And you mentioned business challenges. Right now, what is happening in business? Because there seems to be a lot of unrest. What are you seeing when you're out there? I
think we've really had quite a hangover from COVID. Like the COVID environment has, I think, changed the fabric of the way we do business. And you overlay that with technology, you pull that through in terms of activity that our teams are now required to do and how they connect with customers. There's a whole lot of challenge in that I think modern businesses are struggling with. We've got a whole new breed of young people coming into the industries now that haven't had the training, what I would consider to be the old skills training that you know many received when they came into these industries when I started. So because of that there really is meant that there's a lot of gaps in our teams right now, and I think that's what's costing and it means that the results that people are getting are nowhere near where they should be.
Got it. So as a tactical strategist, when you're going into these businesses, or my understanding too is you speak in front of a lot of organizations at large events, at conferences on this topic. What are the key things that you're talking to audiences or workplaces about? And what are you helping them implement?
Well, I guess the very first thing for me is to actually talk to the business and understand where they're going and why they're going there and what are the changes that they want. Because when it comes to a conference presentation, I see it all the time that we'll get a speaker in and we'll great presentation, but what practically do we want the audience to take away back into the business? So one of the areas of my specialties is understand what the business wants to get across, and then what is the audience we're wanting to do with that content in a practical sense back at their desk. And one of the things that I try and do is design the bespoke presentations to actually match what that need is, and then be able to support the business on an ongoing basis to make sure that happens.
Got it. You must see some trends though. Is it largely around, would it be around business growth and employee engagement? Are those the key things that you're seeing most?
Yeah, one of the things for me is sort of challenging businesses around where they need to go in their future in terms of customers. So that's a big one for me, is helping and supporting the relationship with their customers, who are either the future customer or the customer they've had in the past. Also around about the customer experience that you're creating with the customer. So what are my experience of using your service and how that can be enhanced very simply. Also motivating the team and the skill sets that your team has got. I'm real passionate about making sure that teams have better skills in their job, because if they've got better skills at their job, they do a better job with the customer and they get a better result. And you and I as customers today, what are we looking for? Businesses that understand my needs, show me how that solution is going to be best, and then be able to present it in such a way that I really want to do business with you.
Love it. I love it. Now, while you're the first person I've ever heard of as a tactical strategist, I understand now a little more about what you do. And sure, there are other people out there doing it too. So what makes you different?
I think probably one of the big things that I've sat in many conferences and watched many speakers on a stage. And one of the things that I try and bring differently is, number one, is you've got to get your audience to engage. So this is not a session where they're going to be sitting listening to a speaker for an hour. This is someone that wants them to be active in the audience. No matter how big the auditorium is, I always make people do some work in the audience, working with each other, having conversations with people around them, because that actually is where a lot of the learnings can happen. Second part for me is making sure that the content is relevant to their role. So understanding what we're wanting them to take back and explaining that very clearly, but then also giving lots of examples about what other industries are doing in the marketplace right now and getting success, and how that can be transferred into that particular business as well. So I really want to make sure that it's practical, that it's real, and it actually creates change.
I love that. I love that. So while I've got you in the hot seat right now, what are some key things that businesses should be, and business owners, business leaders, people in governance, what should they be thinking about right now? What are your tips and tricks to take away?
Number one is understand your sales environment and how it interacts with your customer. Our customers now have evolved probably more in the last 5 years than they have in the last 50 years. So we've got to make sure that our frontline proposition to our customer is relevant. Second one is how our people engage, not only externally but internally, so that we have an environment that supports people to take risks, to step up in their business role and actually find new opportunities for businesses to be more successful. And probably the third one, and this one here for me is probably the challenging one, but actually to have a think about the dynamics within an organization in terms of where it's going to go in the future, because the speed of change that we're all going through right now, you've got to make sure that you have a bit of structure and a plan about what the future of your business is going to be and how you're going to take it there.
I absolutely love it. So relevant and incredible wisdom, Darren. I love that. Now, finally, how can people find out more about you?
So the best place is just to jump on my website, www.darrenpratley.com, and that's a really good place to start with. There's some information and the ability to be able to get some insights. But really the first step is just to make contact, and let's just have a conversation about potentially what you're looking for. Am I the right fit? And certainly what is your result that you're looking to change? And once we have a conversation around that, we'll build something bespoke for your event and make sure that you're going to have an amazing conference or a training session that really makes some real value in your business.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your magic here in the studio. I really appreciate it. And if you want to find out more, make sure you head to Darren's website, darrenpratley.com. I'm Monique Bradley for Business and Beyond. Thank you for watching. And Darren, thank you for joining us in the studio.
Thank you so much.
Kia ora.